Good morning, everybody. We are live on the Fireside Chat. Happy Monday! We've got a really special guest today, and it's Ryan Anthony. So Ryan Anthony was the trumpet player from the Canadian Brass, principal trumpet of the Dallas Symphony, and just one of the greatest guys I know. He started Cancer Blows Foundation, and Ryan is just doing amazing things for everybody and brings a ton of hope to me, to others, just by playing music. And, his Cancer Blows recordings and concerts have been doing amazing things for people, raising money, raising awareness. I'm just really happy that I've gotten a chance to know Ryan. So Ryan and I go way back to when I was a student in high school. I went down to a music festival in Ohio, and I believe it was at Bowling Green. And my teacher was giving a master class there, and I didn't know him at this time. And he came down and did this master class. It was called Horn Day at Bowling Green. And I saw this teacher, and he played with the Cleveland Orchestra. His name was David Brockett. Anyways, David Brockett became my teacher. I started going down to Ohio every other week. It was about a 4-hour drive one way, and David Brockett was in a brass ensemble, and he was also in a brass trio with a young man named Ryan Anthony. And we've got him. We've got Ryan here. So Ryan played this brass trio concert, and I remember him playing and smiling with his eyes while he's playing. Hey, there he is! Holy smokes!
Sorry, I had to get hooked up first before I joined the group. What's up?
God. So are you getting chemo right now?
Yeah. Well, actually, I finished the chemo. And I had the transplant. I'm on day 4. So every day I get IV antibiotics and fluids and magnesium, potat, but all sorts of stuff. And then I'll get platelets and blood and all of that. So I come in every day, and I just stay hooked up. But the actual chemo ended like 4 or 5 days ago. So, but yesterday we officially bottomed out, like white blood cell counts, ANC is all 0. So no immune system, base. So now the next 10 days we wait, and then for the new immune system to come back up. So I'm here in the hospital, and you'll probably see nurses coming in and doing whatever they need to do. But hey, this is great. And I overheard you talking a little bit about Brockett. So
yeah. So I was just saying that you were in a brass trio with Brockett, and I remember hearing you play and just being blown away by like your sound, your singing, phrasing, your musicality. But then like you could play and smile. Like you're the only guy I know who could play and smile. You know how hard it is?
I'm not sure.
No, you know how hard it is to like form an embouchure, but your eyes you would smile with your eyes while you're playing, and you looked like you're having so much fun.
I remember those days. You were like 15 or 16 or something like. You would come down, and it was it was the faculty at Oberlin, and that we would do these recitals, and with Brockett and I played in all sorts of groups together, and we would do these recitals. And I remember him telling me about, oh man, I got the student coming down, and you'd be like, gung ho afterwards, I'm all giddy. But yeah, that was just fun. That's the whole point of it,
Oh, sorry, I was trying to add Jeff to the chat. I was going to see if Jeff could join as well. Bummer. I don't think we can add 2 people to this.
Oh, okay.
Dang it.
Oh,
Jeff's off the hook this time.
Oh, good. We can talk about him behind his back.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I remember those days, man. That was when we first met. And then you just sort of kept coming around. And then a student at Music Academy of the West.
Yeah.
Then I coached and taught you there. And then I remember backstage once at DSO, and when you got the Fort Worth job, and you were right back there again. And then a couple of years later, sitting next to me. So man, it's been a long journey, but
it really has, man. Yeah, you've been like on almost every step of my career, and it's so much fun to to have kind of grown up watching it, but I have to say I modeled my performance after you. Like I was just like I didn't know that someone could play classical music and perform and be happy. Like I thought I thought you had to be really serious and really like
Right.
Sam the Eagle. This is very educational, you know. But you were like you showed us that like you can play classical music and you can be happy and you can enjoy it.
It should be. It's music, man. It doesn't matter what genre or what style. I mean, to me, it's all, you know, and I remember telling, uh, you know, lots of people that, yeah, I think the key to my whole playing, my favorite person is Ella Fitzgerald. I mean, that's who I sort of pattern so much stuff after classically.
Wow.
Just because of her music, just because of her musical phrasing. And I don't think she ever sang a note or did anything that wasn't needed for her to accomplish what she was wanting to, you know. But and then as far as classical music, you know, I didn't really start getting into that till years later. It was all mostly soundtracks and things like that. And just, you know, it's just fun. You know, it's just fun music. I just wanted to play. So it didn't matter. It was just language, whether it was classical or jazz or pop or whatever. It just, you know, it's all fun stuff. So we would do the recitals and I would pick the repertoire I'd want. I had the students there. Part of it was too, we spend, you know, hundreds, thousands of hours in the practice room beating ourselves up.
Yeah.
You know, reminding ourselves what we can't do well and try to get better at it. The whole point of doing it is so we can play and have fun. So if we forget that aspect of it, then what are we doing? We're just you know, killing ourselves. And I mean, Zouder, it was my sophomore year in college. I mean, he gave me all my teacher, David Zouder, he played second trumpet in the Cleveland Orchestra for almost, I think, about 40 years. And so often, I mean, a lot of our lessons were beyond just trumpet playing. It was about life and other things. And he gave me so many great words of wisdom. But I'll never forget, it was my sophomore year in college where I just kind of just burnt out. I mean, I think that's the best word for it, you know. And I was doing too much, and I was the same thing. I thought everything was just super serious, and I just wasn't finding any joy about anything. And nobody taught me how to be a professional, so it was double booking things, and you know, it was just a real mess. And so finally, once we got it all, you know, all kind of figured out and organized, I'll never forget. He said, "Okay, let's write out our, you know, practice routine, and so we can make the most of it." It was always about not the amount of minutes, but what we did within the minutes of our practicing. And so the first session, you know, was all the technique and get better at the trumpet, you know, everything we needed to do. And then the second session was how to use that, and then we applied it to musical terms. So that's solos, excerpts, etudes, or whatever. And then he said, well, then there's a third session. I was like, oh my God, I mean, what else is there? You know, a third session. And I said, well, what is that? And he says, I don't ever want to know. And I was like, what? And he says, because that's just for fun. That's just for you. That has to be the payback. Oh. So if you work really hard and you're doing the things, you know, in order to get better, the things that you can't do well, I mean, that's what we have to practice. So that's self-defeating all day. Who wants to do that all day? Remind yourself that what you can't do. So he says, your third session is for fun. And remind yourself that's why we do this. So he says, all I care is that you don't hurt yourself. You know, so, you know, me in the dorm with Maynard Ferguson playing, you know, and the records are dizzy. It didn't matter, you know, I would just play, just had total fun. And I was able to try to capture that. And when I would do those recitals at Oberlin and try to teach my students that, you know, and he would always say it was the 5 Ps, the proper preparation prevents poor performance, you know, and if you're ready, you go out there and have fun. You've done all the work. And I think that's probably the success in years later going to Canadian Brass, because, you know, the great thing about that group is you didn't have to prove anything. I mean, the audience was sitting there, and it's like you going in, you know, Chicago. They know it's going to be a great performance already. Yeah. They've already made their decision before the downbeat. This is going to be great. Wow. You know? Yeah. So you'd walk in there and we would play, and people there, they've heard the group umpteen times, you know, no one's there judging, like, is this group going to make it? They already knew about Canadian Brass. They knew it was going to be fun. And so my job was to make sure that they enjoyed it. And if I can't enjoy it first, there's no way they're going to, you know, and I've always learned that it's, you know, emotions are contagious. And if I'm having a good time doing what I'm doing, not only is the audience going to have a good time, but they're also going to be more forgiving and great
Yeah.
place to and you know, just focus on the phrasing and having and if you're prepared, then you just go and I guess smile with your eyes.
Wow, man. Honestly, when you were in the Canadian brass, I feel like that was the pinnacle of like recording of brass ensembles. I mean, like the '80s, the '70s, '80s, '90s really kind of paved the way for those large brass groups like
Right.
Empire and Boston Brass and Canadian Brass. Um, when you were in the group, I felt like you were a superstar, and you were never like you never made me feel like you were more or like and I was less. Like when I remember like when I was a student, I went and like had whatever food with you after the brass concert,
Yeah.
and you just treated me like I was equal with you, and I'll never forget that you were just like so kind to me, and I was like nobody, but you were just like nice. You spent time talking to me, and you were like, it just made me feel like I was kind of like just a
I
person.
mean, it's a small world, and especially in that group. I mean, everybody there was great players, and you had to assume that if they're not students, they're future colleagues. You know, you got to go with that assumption because everybody was that good. Um, but I think that's always, I was lucky to be treated that way. You know, when I when I was in school, the players in the Cleveland Orchestra, and they had me play extra a lot, and they always just treated me. I mean, yeah, I was a student, but they made me feel like I was still one of them and worthy of someday being in their same circle, and that meant a lot, And so yeah, they taught me, but they never put me down. Like we're here, you're a student. Maybe someday, if you play your cards right, you can make it. I mean, it was just always sort of this. We're in it together, and we're just at different stages. And and so it's interesting for you to say that because I've never heard that actually put into words, but that's certainly how I feel. Even my teaching now, my job is I'm hard on my students, but not in a way that I want to make them feel like they're not one of us, all of us. That's in this. We're in this together, and
Yeah. And
so it's
I always talk about that. It's like for me, there's this broad highway, right? And we're walking it together, right?
yeah,
You might be a little bit further down the path, meaning you might have a little bit more experience than I do today, or like you might have put in a little bit more hours than I do. But just because I like have figured a couple things out and I have a little bit more experience doesn't mean that I haven't been where you've been. And I think that's like one of the gifts that I've been able to kind of come up with is like, hey, like I'm not special. I just put in the time and I have experience.
yeah. And those who recognize it too, I mean, they're certainly always willing to help out. And I mean, it's a collaborative effort. Nobody in this business is bigger than the other person ultimately. And as soon as you realize that, the better your playing is, and the bigger your broader audience, and the more music that you can actually share. Um, and so, I mean, that's certainly in the last several years that I've learned with, being sick and all that, and having to, I mean, deal with my playing not being what I always assumed it would be. Is that, man, you know what? There's other things that carry you through. There's other things that really matter, and it's bigger than just my part. It's bigger than it's the collective, and all we can do is do our best, um, cherish the fact that we have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
I go around to these regional orchestras and I actually love it. Soloing with them, it's the same notes, it's the same music, it's from the same rental company. They're looking at the same thing that we do, whether we're at Symphony Hall or the Meyerson or wherever. And they're playing the same thing and what they would give to be in our situation. And then sometimes it's so great to see how hard they're working because they want it so badly and they are so passionate about it, where it's easy for us to take it for granted because every week we get to go to a great hall and great people, and okay, let's play this great music. Where there's others I remember as a student, you're like, oh yeah, Canton Symphony in a month is playing Alpine Symphony, and you wait for that. That's like the biggest thing, now.
Yeah.
Okay, I got Alpine next week. Oh, and then there's Mahler. You just kind of forget the excitement of what this music is. And I think it's important that we never let that, we never forget how cool it is, how great it is. And it's beyond just any one person or one group. I mean, this is what we do is amazing, and it changes lives. So before the whole quarantine, we did Concerto for Hope down in Mississippi. And, years and years ago, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go down there and do it. Well, now I was like, man, this is a really meaningful piece. And it was a challenge for me. It was in between some hospital visits, and it was one of the most powerful evenings. And it's in a small place, and the amount of emails from the people who I touched that night was no different or less important than anybody I would touch playing in Myerson or Carnegie.
Wow. I mean, and that's, to hear you say that, having played all the biggest halls in the world, like the biggest venues, and just say, there's no concert that's more important or less important. It's like, hey, and even this, this concert in Mississippi was so meaningful, and it touched so many people. Wow. I mean,
that's probably been the biggest thing that's hit me. Is just seeing the need of everybody, no matter where they are, what walk of life, what music does for them. And everybody needs it. And some cities are blessed with these great, amazing orchestras. And some of them have to fight really hard for it, but it's just as important and vital in the community that this music be played, and that the performers go out there. And you try to play perfect, but more importantly, you want to make a message. You want people to walk out of there and go, wow, I mean, I'm so glad I came here. This was the best use of my time, and want to go back and hopefully support what's going on.
Yeah. So Ryan, I remember when you were diagnosed with cancer. I was there that week, and I remember I wanted to give you a hug because I'm a hugger, and you're like, no hugs. And I was like, wait a second. And I remember you're like, I'm just a little sore in my ribs. I'm just a little, I just really hurt. And I remember I was just like, okay, and then I remember hey, what's up with Ryan? And then someone who you confided in said, hey, he was diagnosed with cancer. And I remember it was just it took all the wind out of my sails. It hit me like a ton of bricks, man. I was just like, what does that mean? I'm like, what does that mean? Does that mean that you're not going to be with us? Or does that mean that you're not going to play trumpet? And I mean, that was in 2012.
And November. It was the week of Thanksgiving, 2000. Yeah.
And I remember Canadian Brass came that week, I think later that week. And then I remember watching from backstage through that little window on the side stage left door, and you played. I remember you got your white shoes on. You had your Adidas, you were with the guys, and you were playing Penny Lane. And I remember I just teared up, man. I was just thinking this might be the last time I hear you or see you on stage. I just didn't know. And
that was the last concert. It was that weekend, and then we knew something was going on, and it was the following Monday we got the hard knowledge of exactly what was up. But I remember that concert because it was extremely painful. Of course, Kevin Finnemore knew the whole time, because he was sitting next to me and covering for me a lot. And so we got a call, that week, and it was multiple myeloma, which they were considered a terminal cancer because there's no cure. But there's a lot of different types, and multiple. I mean, that's what's is sort of the key. But it turned out that I got all the high risk and all the things that was told that we'd have 1 to 2 years. That it just wasn't going to be. In fact, we had one specialist that said I wouldn't even do anything. You just got a year, just wrap it up and enjoy what you can. And then we had a specialist that thought that maybe you can push it 3 to 5, and then some that said, maybe 8. And so we went all around the country just trying to look to see what can we do about this. because it's not a cancer and a tumor. I mean, you can't remove the entire bone marrow. You know, it's just it's there. It's in the blood, and so it's been an interesting ride, to say the very least. And
But you came back from it, and the thing I want to highlight is just like when you were on stage with us, we knew what you were going through. Like we knew, like at some level, like right, we all knew that you hurt. We all knew that you had a fever. You might be nauseous from the treatments. You might have had a treatment that day, but you still showed up, and you brought your A game every time, and that inspired me. Like, it doesn't matter if I have a cold. It doesn't matter if I'm like my lips they feel a little bit chapped or whatever, swollen. Hey man, if Ryan's here and he's bringing his all, I'm going to show up. And that like brought so much hope to me.
yeah, well, up until 2 years, I think I only took one sick day. I mean, I came back 2 months later. We did Pines and Rome. That was my return, and we took it to Vail. And the doctors are like, "Nah, don't plan on it." But that was kind of my like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it. And yes, we did that. And I just, I continued playing. Did chemos on Friday, and we would do concerts Friday nights, and we just kind of worked it out. And then 3 years ago, it got where I couldn't do Wednesday afternoon rehearsals. And so that was the first time where it really started conflicting with schedules. But we usually would do concertos and things, and Maestro von Sweden was always understanding because I'd have to go in for chemo again on Wednesday and then on Friday. And actually, I would do it 3 days a week. And yeah, there was a lot of concerts where I would just have the bag in my jacket or a fever, or Kevin would help me up the stairs to get in there. And you just got to do it, you just do what you want to do or what you need to do. I mean, to me, that was kind of also just sort of, sticking it to the cancer. I just wasn't going to allow it to define my life. I play trumpet and I play with the DSO. That's what I do. Unfortunately, these last year and a half, I've had to be on disability and not been able to perform, and it kills me. It's hard. I'm still doing some stuff when I can and teaching full time at SMU. But I do plan on going back in the fall. They made a position principal emeritus, so we can figure out so I can do some playing.
Awesome.
But we're in the midst of trying to figure that out. And so 4 days ago actually was my fourth transplant. Usually you do one, maybe two. If you count the tandem as two, then it's my fifth. That makes it sound better. So I like to tell everyone it's fifth transplant. But we keep every year staring at the wall. We've ran out of everything that's on the market. We just keep building a bridge until something else becomes available, and it's sort of manifested itself differently this year. Every time it comes back, it's more aggressive, and so I've been in the ICU several times over the last few months, and chest tubes, and was bored in November, and I mean, but we're still working. We still got concerts and projects and recordings, and now we got this world band we're working on, and I'm trying to do some playing at home and some solo projects and quintet stuff. I mean, it's just, you can't let it stop you. You just got to keep going. And it's the way that I see it is I'm not playing the way that maybe I'd want to, but I'm playing the best that I can. And if people want to hear it and if I have something to offer, then I'm going to keep doing it.
Oh, that's awesome. Honestly, music seems like it's giving you hope, and it's giving you, a reason to keep going.
Yeah.
I've gone through some difficult times in my life, but it's always like, hey, if I get through this, I know I can come back to my music.
Right.
And it's like one of those things that's like giving me a reason to live, really.
Yeah. But look, absolutely, man, it's been a lifeline. It's not going to leave, and it doesn't diminish ever. The power of it, the tagline for the Ryan Anthony Foundation is music equals hope. I mean, that's just and I've learned that. And the greatest thing about the foundation and what I get in every day there's emails or letters or something just saying thanks, and from a patient or a caregiver. But what's great is the non-musicians who have been sick, and somebody says, hey, check out this video of the song called Song of Hope, listen to it. And they'll go and they'll listen to it, or they'll watch, Cancer Blows. I think we have it on right now. I'm already for 3 days as an anniversary. I'm getting people who'd never heard of it. And they're just like, wow, they're really touched by it. And they're not musicians, but it just shows you how much music can permeate just human life and being and emotion and give hope. And that's what's been so incredible to see. We started this foundation to fundraise money for cancer research, and which we are, and we've been able to raise millions of dollars. But the best thing is you can't put a dollar on the individuals that finally said they were wanting to give up. And music, basically has been their lifeline. They heard music and they felt something that no one was able to put into words. And so it's been great. It's just, if we can be a catalyst to help out others, how do you define that? So that's what we're actually right now in the middle of doing this World Band project.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a little over 20 countries, and we're doing it to the Song of Hope, which you played the premiere on.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, absolutely. The Cancer Blows.
And so it's based on that piece. Peter Meakin wrote it. And it's an incredible piece, and he's done it for band and orchestra and brass band and brass ensemble and all various forms. And so we're sort of collecting all of those. And we have right now submitted, we have ages from 6 years old to 77 years old.
Oh, man.
So he wrote, parts of just whole notes. So if somebody, just wants to play, they can play whole notes, and then yet, Doc Severson, Arturo Sandoval, and now all these other great names and are still on it, and they get to play along, but they'll be in the band. And we've got a Shaolin monk from Italy that's playing marimba, and we got a sax group from Prague that's going in there. And it's just bizarre. There's a school from Uganda that asked if they can do African drumming on top of it. And so,
so basically you've taken this model for like giving people with cancer hope to now give the whole world during this time of coronavirus hope.
Yeah. That's the whole idea. It's beyond me. It's beyond cancer. It's just, music doesn't discriminate, and it doesn't care about age, race, religion, but it's always been there. And right now, that's the unity that's what we need. We're seeing this virus, not just U.S. It's worldwide, and it's all ages and it's all nationalities. And so just as cancer and disease and virus doesn't discriminate, neither does music. It's really the only thing I can think of that could be just as powerful and outlive it. You can go through history and you can see all these times where we've had, plagues and all these things going on. But at the same time, you can talk to archaeologists, and from the beginning of civilization, the tools that have been found, and everything is tools for whatever that tribe or civilization used for worship, to gather food, and to make music. Whether it's stretching a skinhead over something, or a hollow log. But if you think about it that way, music's that important to just living into mankind. We have to have it. It's not an elective. It shouldn't be an elective in school. It's necessary.
Yeah. It's just as important as food.
Yeah. So here we are. When you look at it that way, we need it to nourish our mind, body, soul, and food. It's everything. And so here we are, it's, so we're got together, and there's this film documentary that we're making as well about the power of music and the arts. And we've been doing that for about a year or so now. And we're going to include this project, part of that. So we have so many entries. I don't know how many we can get in the video, but they'll all be included in the film documentary. Yeah. And everybody's name will be listed. And I think we've got Canadian brass and Boston brass and members of London brass, German brass, and just everybody from all around the world that are just playing, either just a simple band part, or and I've got some people that with grandparents and grandchildren sitting there together. We had an email from a blind student that asked if we could put it into Braille because he really wanted to be involved. And
wow.
Elderly person who's been in this wheelchair and crippled, who asked his kids to find his horn because he wanted to get involved. it's been unbelievably touching. And so, a month ago, we kind of were staring at the wall, really thinking we didn't know what, to be perfectly honest, if we had months left. And thanks to our turnaround, we found some new treatments. All of a sudden, it just started clicking. But it was at the same time we also started doing this world band. And I can't, I had to, it's not a coincidence, the hope that comes.
There's no coincidence in our world, right?
So we're actually putting this together right now. So it's not too late. Get colleagues. Yes, we got people from professional orchestras and middle school all playing.
And we can go to www.songforhopemovie.com or www.songforhopeworldband.com.
Yeah, they'll have links there, and we just play along with the one that we did in 2015, so we can track, the rhythms, and then we'll put together the audio, but most of it is at this point is sheer numbers. We want to see people, we want to show the world that how important it is. So, a lot of people are like, well, I don't have the recording equipment. Just video it on the phone. Just have it playing somewhere that you can play along, so we can sync it up. We want to show the numbers, and I saw earlier, I love all the messages, and Elmer Trumpy was on it earlier. So I was telling him, I said, he's got to get his dad, man. I need a mariachi band from south of the border. I need someone in the Ferrero.
I think Elmer, man, he's like, he's doing salsa gigs, in his apartment right now. He's probably...
Oh, I know it, man. I'm like, look, someone's got it done on, man. I want it all. I want, so we see, from all around the world, people coming together. And we did a really great video of 32 artists for the health workers, the front line, Hope for the Future. And that, it's been great. We've done Cancer Blows, and we bring in all these stars. But I wanted something that, like you said, music is for everybody. I want to hit the beginners, the professionals, and so we have various parts. We've got string players, we've got, that I've sent out, and piano parts. And so we're trying to figure out exactly, and there's no real hard deadline, but just the idea of making one statement, of unity, that no matter what, we've got hope. And just this morning, we heard about 2 more people who passed away with COVID, and it's just, it's not, it's not over. And I know for me, one of the issues was one of the drugs that we really needed, and it was just about to come out. And when COVID happened, it pretty much got, kind of shelved because all the priority was of the pharmaceutical companies during COVID. So there's patients like myself that are waiting for these other new drugs that we can't get to, until we can get a better grasp on COVID and they can get back to some of the other things that they were doing. So it's just, it's a domino effect. But, the one thing that doesn't end is music. And we've all had concerts canceled and doors closed, and can't get in the halls. We can't go to things. But you can't quarantine hope and music. You just can't do it.
Yeah, and I know that's kind of like the thing for you. It's just like, listen, when you were playing every day and we knew what you were going through, you gave us hope on, a local level, right? Just like with our community. Maybe the audience didn't necessarily know what you were going through, but we all knew. And that gave us hope, like, hey, man, like, he really wants to be here. So we got to bring our A game, our 150% today, because he's here, and like just that attitude was like, it just sent ripples to the whole brass section. It sent, and it just showed me, it's like you live by example, by giving, like, what I've been kind of, really thinking about service recently and giving back. And right. when I give, it seems to me that I feel better. I'm taken out of my problem. I'm taken out of kind of my, maybe my day-to-day struggles. And so, I've just been trying to give as much as I can. And it just seems like when I'm focused on others, I feel better. And I feel the same thing for you.
Well, it's absolutely. I mean, when you can see, that what you're doing is someone else says, wow, that made a difference in my life. I mean, that's just, it's like, oh, okay. I went out there to make good music, and it turns out it's had for somebody in the audience, just a massive, bigger effect. There's, yeah, it just makes you just want to keep going no matter what, and it puts things in perspective too.
Yes.
So often we get on stage and we think, okay, this moment is a solo. This moment is about me.
Yeah.
And now I've realized it never is. I mean, it's about whatever role I'm playing in that moment, within the big piece. And so maybe it's a soloistic line, but within the whole ensemble, within what the composer was trying to say, within what I'm, and I tell also my students too, my interpretation comes based on, when I do solo rep, is what do I want the audience to feel? Then that tells me how to go about it.
Mm.
If I want them to feel something at this point, at this certain point in the music, well, then I know that what I have to do in order to feel that, first. So people can say, oh, okay, I want this dude to be this or that. Well, why? They don't think about that. Oh, because I like it. But why? I mean, what's the point? I mean, is it because you want to make the audience feel happy? You want to make them feel, look inward about themselves? Do you want them to be reflective? Do you want them to, that's what we have to go about as performers. If we know what we want the audience to feel, then that tells us then how we have to approach that solo line.
Wow.
What it's about.
That's just another level of thought. For me, it's like, hey, where do I want to phrase to? Well, what color, do I want? But it's always about why. What do I want the audience to feel? What do I want to communicate?
Yeah. And then some, and if we take that out of the equation too, then the audience they can only judge whether it was good or bad based on technique, because there was no emotion. And yeah, me, I always go for it. So there's always going to be mistakes, and I don't want anybody judging me on that. I don't want anybody walking out saying, "Oh, my money back because he missed the high C on also Sprock." Instead, I want them to say, "Man, that was so exciting."
Yeah.
But he missed it. I don't care, man. That was so exciting. I was so into it. I was on the edge of my seat, or something.
Yeah.
It has to go beyond the technique. And so, as soon as we take the emotional aspect out, then we're only left to be judged by technique.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to go to these concerts. I want to be moved. I want to be changed. And so, in fact, it was last March. It was in Memphis, and we did Concerto for Hope that Jim Stevenson wrote. We actually did a live recording, and I was shared with one of the violinists. It's a brass piece, it's a trumpet piece, and it's sort of story of my fight with the cancer and overcoming it and being victorious in the end. But I got, she forwarded me an email from one of her former students, a violinist, and they asked me to talk before the concerto to set it up. And this person had tried to commit suicide before, and just in a really down time of her life. She came to this concert, and she wrote a letter, and she said, "I want to start taking violin lessons again, because I got, what she heard was just so much of hope, and said it just changed my perspective. I'm ready. I want to take violin lessons again. I want to, I want to live." And this violinist forwarded me this email. I didn't go in there to make a difference in, this teenager's life as a violin player.
Yeah.
So I went in there thinking, okay, there's going to be trumpet players out there. They're going to be listening, how am I playing my trumpet part? And now we're doing this. We're doing a live recording. I'm trying to think of that way. And it hit me so hard that, wow, that's really, that was one of the most powerful things I think I've ever received about just music.
Yeah.
And again, nothing to do with how I played. It had to do with composition, and it had to do with the vulnerability, I think, of just saying, man, I was told I was on the brink of death, and here, and through music and through the last movement, we're victorious. And somehow that translated to this teenager and gave her completely hope of saying, okay, and I want to pick up my instrument again.
Wow.
Yeah. I just think, yeah.
It's beyond the struggle, right? So like, I used to think my struggles were unique, and it was just me who'd been through this one type of struggle. But like, what I realized is that every person has struggles. Like, it doesn't matter if it's addiction or depression or, you know, cancer or disease or loss. Everyone goes through these struggles. And when we realize, hey, like, everyone's gone through it, but also like, hey, you know, regardless of the name of the struggle, the feelings are the same, right? And we can all identify in those feelings.
Absolutely. You know, and I don't like when people say, oh, well, mine's not as bad as yours. You know what? In the heat of the moment, your struggle could be just as great as mine.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. Don't belittle it. I mean, it's real.
Yeah.
And and so, you know, it's yeah, like you said, we all have them, and we're going to go through them. And for me, I've learned that, you know, music is the best way to communicate it. Obviously, family and friends and faith and all that gets us through everything. But when we can get together and make music, and right now, you know, we have this quarantine, we can't, but we're not letting it stop us. We're seeing these things on, you know, people making these videos and things that we're doing. It's just, you can't stop the hope. You can't stop the music. You can't stop that language. You can't stop the idea of, you know, trying to figure out really how important and how great this form of art is, and how deep it can go, and how far it can reach. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, those are all things that, you know, I learned a lot with, obviously, with Canadian Brass, because we toured, you know, worldwide, and we got to play everywhere, and then obviously went to Dallas, but you know, now doing how many different types of lives, and how far it can reach, and wow. It's been amazing. So in some ways, it's been, you know, I don't want to say is it a blessing, but it's been one of the gifts, I guess I can say, from being sick, is that I've learned that. You know, I've learned to appreciate time, and I've learned to be able to appreciate, you know, even when I wasn't feeling well, and I would come up, and I knew that with, you know, Dal, I would sit next to you, and you're always smiling, you're always happy, you know, and it could be a really, you know, bad day, and but I had an opportunity, I had a chance, I had the gift to go and play regardless of how I felt, and so many people would love to have that. You know, we're lucky, and so, you know, now I've learned to appreciate too. You know, a bad day is still a day, and
wow.
The sun comes down, and I look at it differently. And you know, last month when we were just really kind of panicked. It's you know, it's been great. And one of the things too, I got to say, that I've learned as performers, I think we get so into, you know, we prepare our music and we listen to the stuff we're working on. And since I haven't been able to perform as much, I've become, I've just been listening to music again, like I did when I was younger, you know, just for fun of it, not because, okay, I got to analyze the Mahler Symphony and listen to it, or prepare this, or listen to that. What's my next soloist? And let me listen to music. I've just been able to chance just to listen and embrace it. It's like, oh yeah, it's so cool. And it doesn't matter what style. I mean, I think it drives my family crazy, you know, because it's just like, doesn't, you know, whatever's coming out of it, it can be Tower of Power or salsa or Mahler, or, you know, or it just doesn't matter. It's just, it's great stuff, you know. And then it's I don't know.
Man, I wish I could get a playlist from you. You know, just like I want to share Ryan Anthony's playlist. Just like
it is all over the map. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I want to, you know, like, I mean, I've got a pretty eclectic, you know, taste in music too, but I would love to see what you're listening to, man.
Well, you know, and that's one of the reasons I got into trumpet. Well, I got into trumpet because of my grandfather and my whole family, and they all played. But one of the things I loved about it is because it's in every style, you know. So as a kid, I'm listening to, you know, the band Chicago. So I'm like turning on the radio, and there's pop songs, and there's, you know, there's trumpets all over the place. And then, you know, obviously you get the jazz, and then the soundtracks. First time I heard Morris Murphy doing some John Williams, I was just like, oh man, you know, that's amazing. Then that transferred to some other the classical music, and then somebody gave me a Maurice Andre. I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, wherever you turn, you know, you can hear that, and I loved that, and I always wanted to be able to do that, and be able to to play and learn everything. And so,
I mean, when you came to the Dallas Symphony, right? Like, previously the principal trumpet had just played the Mahler and the classical stuff, and then when you got there, you're like, no, man, I want to play the jazz stuff. I want to play the scream and like
oh man, yeah,
West Side Story.
like, are you kidding? I'm not taking the pop stuff off. I love that stuff.
Oh man.
I mean, that's what got me. That's really what got me into it. So yeah.
We were just like, dude, he's like just killing it on the pop stuff too. It was so fun to see like all the different styles you could play.
That was more, I guess, probably what I was more adjusted to than actually doing the principal trumpet thing. I would always come in and do the principal thing, and I was sort of like the trumpet band-aid for a while. If somebody needed, I'd go in, play for a week or so, and then leave. And so Dallas was really the first time I was like, oh, okay, this is it. This is the job. This is everything. But because before that, it was just like, okay, what's next on the calendar? Oh, I'm going to go do this. Now it's a pop thing, a solo thing, a quintet thing, a brass band thing, so it was great.
Man, I guess for me, like that must be one of the great things about being in a brass ensemble is that you can play all those types of music. And
that's exactly it. And I think that's why the only one consistency through my career has been brass quintet. Yeah. Since high school, and yeah, for that reason, because we can play so many different styles and do things that way, and so it's always been fun.
So cool seeing that video of you and your brother like with the Canadian brass. Do you want to share that story really quick? Like you guys like had never met before, and then you had to play this.
Oh, I still don't know how my brother, how RB did it. This is all way before cell phones and I don't. So Canadian brass was coming into the San Diego there in North County, and they were doing a concert and then like a master class during the day. And so I was at school, and I got a message to go to the office. It was an emergency, and so I go to the office, and my brother RB, who he's sitting in there, looking very solemn, and they said, there's, I don't know if they said it was an emergency or something, but you have to go home. And I thought, oh man, what happened? Something happened to mom or dad. So RB gets me and says, just walk to the car. So I go to the car, and I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? We get to the car, and I see in the back seat our uniform, my instruments, and the music. And he's like, we're gonna go play with Canadian brass. We got 45 minutes. We got to get up there. And I still to this day I have no idea how he organized it, how he got snuck us on this master class in North County. So I'm changing in the car, and because we had outfits and we had Vans shoes that every year would sponsor us, and we did everything. We just did everything. We tried to follow Canadian brass. We knew all their music. We did everything. And so we get there, and then again somehow he convinces them that they'll play some numbers, and then we'll play some numbers. And being now in the group, I don't understand that. We'll work with a group, but we've never just said, oh, let some other group just come out and play. So when we came out there and we started like doing their stuff, I mean, and they're sitting in the front row, and we took out our A game. We played, because we were playing around Disneyland, SeaWorld and stuff all around. They were all in college. I was in high school. But we did all the stuff was features, the solo things. For me, and so we played, and then at the then they worked on us a little bit, and then somehow again they said, well, why don't we do a handful of keys? And we're like, well, we have choreography, and my brother's like, oh, well, we know it, trust us. So without ever playing a note or trying anything, they just lined up the chairs and we played it. We just and a friend of ours videotaping it in the back, and so that's what it is. I mean, it was totally impromptu, never planned, never discussed. And so basically 15 years later, I mean, that was my audition. Little did I know. So I was at Oberlin, and I came home one day, and Nikki's like, you need to listen to the Answer Machine. And I go and I listen, and it's Chuck Dellenbach on there and saying, hey, Ronnie Rom's retiring, and we really wanted to have you come up and play. I mean, how he knew my phone number. I mean, he'd sort of followed along through the years, but it came from that high school meeting. But yeah, it's on there somewhere up there on YouTube.
I mean, it's on YouTube, and we saw it on the Canadian brass chat with the trumpets. But
oh yeah,
you'd get up, and the two trumpets would get up, and it's like everyone was getting up.
and Ronnie.
Synchronized,
It's so
completely
fun to look
synchronized.
back, and somewhere on there too is the solo that I did. I did this circular breathing thing. You know, now it's funny to hear Chuck talk about it too. They're all sitting here like, well, wait a minute, wasn't this our show? What's going? Who are these people? You know, so yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No. I mean, honestly, man. In my world and in your world, I just feel like there are no coincidences, and it was meant to be, right? And it's, I know you have a really strong spirituality. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, but I know it's also been something that's really given you hope. Can you just share like why that's important and what it's brought to your life?
Well, I think it's like, I mean, we talked about it with music, and I mean, the few things that that can't be stopped and it can't be quantified, and it just it permeates anything, and it's always there, and my family has always been that way. I mean, there's two people that I can look at specifically that have changed my life. One was my grandfather, and he always played. He was self-taught cornetist and played in the Los Angeles Salvation Army band, and every Sunday, no matter what, I mean, he would take his cornet and go and play in the community and do things. His whole idea was that it was to be a service, that if he could do something then he wanted to use it and to help others. And that was just what we did. And every Sunday we went and we played, and my father, growing up at the beginning, was a music minister, and then later went into public school teaching. And that was music, and that was our way of doing things. And so it's always sort of been there. And then you had David Zouder, who was my teacher, and he lost his family in the concentration camp. So he came over to the States, and he really carved out his whole life. And talk about someone with adversity and a hard worker. And I look at these two men, and I think that's kind of what shaped me as far as, no matter what, music was always their vehicle, through the hardest of times. And through Zouder, no matter how he was, he always found music. He taught me through the hardest of times to use that. And then to look at my grandfather as well. I mean, that was, music was almost something that was a responsibility within our faith to use, to share with others, and so, but yeah, our family's always been that way, in immediate family as well. And we kind of have to, I mean, especially now, it's a trial constantly, to this path that we're on. And I can't explain why I was given this cancer, and there's no, where we're fighting every day, every week to find something to get just to the next thing, because we've ran out of options. And yet I have to believe that there's a purpose. I have to believe that there's a reason, and it's not mine to, the way I tell everybody is, I mean, the only thing I can do is just walk the path, and do the best I can. I can't,
for all of us,
try to change. Yeah. I mean, and that's where my spirituality, my faith comes from. I mean, there's a reason. I don't know what it is, and I have no idea why this happened, but there has to be a bigger picture there, and so therefore it's my responsibility to walk that path, and to do the best I can on it. And sometimes I can only see one step ahead of me, and sometimes I feel like I can see pretty far ahead. But it's something that I have to. It also makes me realize, I'm not alone. So yeah, our faith and spiritual walk has been really important to going through this. And I think I've always felt from the beginning that music is, was sort of a gift. I'm trying to get batteries so I don't run out here. Hold on. Yeah, let me move my my tree.
Oh,
I call it my dancing partner, because wherever I go with them. And in my bag of tricks here, hold on. Here it is. I always remember at the beginning, just sort of feeling like there was, I don't describe it. I mean, everyone in my family always plays, but they all went into education or something like that. I was the weird one to go into performance. And I just kind of felt like there was something, there was a calling. And so that's why when I left Memphis and actually lived in my car for those 2 years, it was because I knew there was just something else. There was just something else that I had to follow. I couldn't put my finger on it exactly what it was, but I knew there was something of a bigger picture, a path that I had to get back on. And so I've always kind of used that as a guideline. Trying to just without questions just follow and see where it leads me and what it's supposed to be. And unfortunately right now part of it is cancer, and so we started this foundation again just thinking, oh, okay, it's just a one-time thing, and now it's constant, not because we wanted something extra added to do in our life to keep us busy, but it's something that we realized is needed by patients and caregivers and others that have asked for it. And I look at that as well. That's part of us. That's a sign. That's just part of what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I sort of gave up control over all of that a long time ago. I just sort of thought, okay, I just got to do whatever I'm supposed to and whatever I'm meant to, and not ask questions and not fight it and just answer that call. And so that's I guess that's probably the best way I could kind of just describe it.
Ryan, I'm so grateful for you in my life, man. I don't know, like, if you know how special you are to me, and just like getting to spend time together, getting to we got to see each other in September and we just laughed for 3 hours. I mean, like, just the stories you tell, the stories you share. You're one of the best storytellers I know. And I could just, when I hear you tell stories, I'm like right there with you. And it's the same way as when you play the trumpet. And I'll never forget you talking to the young Mexican kids who came up from Oaxaca. And you this little trumpet player, and you gave him the story. Tell me about this piece. Tell me about who's the main character? Is it a dog? Does he have a little tail? Tell me about what's his color? Is he big? Is he little? Okay, is he fast? And then you played all the different emotions of the dog. And, and there was a translator. Un perro poquito.
Yeah, I do remember that because I was trying to find out, how do I, find a way to be able to relate to this kid. And we had a great time. I think we played one of the tunes back and forth and all that.
The Macarena, maybe, or the Virgin de la Macarena, maybe.
Yeah, it was fun. That's the thing I love too, because it's just, I just don't know of another industry or another thing that can cross all those boundaries and all those lines, and still be able to have so much fun and do something. And I remember hoping that, I hope that kid really, loved it and came out something.
Well, listen, even regardless of what happened with our friend, if what he got or what he didn't get, he had fun that day, and he'll never forget it. And I'll never forget it because I learned a new language to teach. It's it crosses borders, it crosses language, and you can have fun and you can share over, without even the same language, but just with a story through music.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things too. I think it's so great, and why interpretations are so wonderful, because everybody can have something different to say. Yeah. Everyone's walk is different. Your trials are different from my trials, and so I want to hear what you have to say. And it's going to be different from your solo than someone else's because of your experiences. And that's what's amazing, and that's what's great, and that's what keeps everything inspiring and fresh and new.
Well, Ryan, we have about 1 minute left, and so I think we should just wrap it up here. But if you wouldn't mind, just say a quick hello to a few people that are watching. David Brockett, hello. Jeff Nelson, we love you.
My big brother, if he's watching, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. I talked about Zouder and my grandfathers, and the next person in line would be Brockett.
And that's my teacher.
Yeah, he's my rock. I love you, buddy.
Yeah.
I'll never forget one of the hardest times of my life. And I was actually staying with him, and he said, I could tell you what to do, and I can catch you before you fall, but that wouldn't make you better. But what I can do is be there right next to you and pick you up as soon as you fall and help you continue your walk. And I'll never forget that from him.
And I love you, man. You want to continue? Hey, I'm sorry about that. We got cut off. We're just hearing the conclusion of our Ryan Anthony interview. It's been just a gift to share an hour with this incredibly inspiring musician. I'm so grateful for Ryan in my life, and honestly, we're gonna see if we can get Ryan back on here just to finish the chat. But yeah, Ryan he's under cancer blows, but yeah, he was just talking about my teacher David Brockett and how much David was there he is, cancer blows. Let's see how do we add him? Aha, there we go. So yeah, it's been such a pleasure to talk with him and spend an hour with him. And if one thing we got out of this is hope.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. So Brockett, if you're there, man, love you. And can't wait to see you.
Yeah.
So Jeff Nelson might be on there. I mean, there's probably a slew of people on there. So
absolutely. Hey, well, thank you again for your time. Thank you again for this hour together. I mean, we could spend like 5 hours together just telling stories. Just like the places your career's been and the people you've seen, and just I love it. It's so fun.
Hey, well, just keep having multiple bow ties of different colors in your locker, and man, you'll be set.
Dude, oh my gosh! I remember when I had 2 white bow ties, and that was a moment where you're like, "You've grown up, man. You've grown up." Like, because I gave you
wearing a black tie that night.
Yeah, the wrong bow tie. I know. It's like, I had 2 of them, but they were just the wrong color. So, hey, thanks.
Well, thanks for having me on. Like, I've watched you, since you were a kid, and I'm so proud. And the fact that you even say that I'm part of your journey means so much to me. And I can't wait to hear you in Chicago. And we got more projects to do. We'll do this together.
So the Song for Hope World Band, and we'll find you at www.songforhopemovie.com.
Yeah. Yeah, go on there and download a part, just videotape it, and I think we're gonna release some of the brass ensemble parts that we did before, so we can get not only you and your colleagues and other people involved. Everything stacks on top of each other. It'll all work. But yeah, we want to show the power of as many people, and the idea though that we've got a lot of these students, but now to get some of these professionals in as well, leading the way.
I'll send out an email to the Chicago Symphony Brass and just invite all of our friends, our colleagues to join, and maybe I can talk to some of my friends in New York and see if they can do the same thing. But I'll definitely be there. You can count on me.
Okay. All right, man. Thanks.
Love you, brother. See you soon.
Bye.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.